time. It's our time, my friends. Time for millions of maturepreneurs, 55 plus, who are hashtag not done by a long shot, to revolutionize how we lead, do business, and innovate our world. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to my conversations with fascinating people who would rather inspire than retire. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Maturepreneur podcast. I am your hostess, Jeanette Anderson, and today I have with me a wonderful woman who I've gotten to know over the years, who is a trailblazer, a passionate advocate for people, and a queen of reinvention. I think you just said that you reinvented your company name 7 times or something like that. So welcome, Barbara. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you, Jeanette. I'm so happy to always enjoy conversations with you. So thank you for the opportunity.
So let me tell you the official word about Barbara as usual. Then we'll find out some of the kind of juicy tidbits behind the scenes. And then we're going to take a journey through reinvention, because Barbara has a fascinating decades-long story of pursuing her passion in many different ways and having many different layers and levels of impact, from starting an industry to now starting a chamber. So we're going to be talking about the whole journey. So the official word here on Barbara is that she is the Vision Accelerator and founder of Productive Environment Institute. She's passionate about helping entrepreneurs and leaders eliminate clutter and accelerate their vision to be able to leave a legacy that matters. She started her career in 1978 with a $7 ad in the New York newspaper. So we're going to talk about that as well. A team of certified productive environmentist specialists deliver her world-class expertise now virtually. And her first best-selling book, Taming the Paper Tiger, helped her launch and grow the organizing industry. Her signature book, Less Clutter, More Life, reveals the physical and digital clutter is a symptom of emotional and spiritual clutter. So we're going to talk about that too. Lots to cover today. I'm so glad you're here. Tell us where you are physically located right now in the world.
I live in Raleigh, North Carolina now. I'm 3 hours from the mountains and 2 hours from the beach. So I just think it's a fabulous place to be.
It is. A long time ago, I lived in Raleigh, one of my favorite places I've ever lived. So it was a long time ago, though. All right, let's talk about starting right from the very beginning. Oh, wait, before I leap into that, tell us a little bit about you that people wouldn't guess. And then I also just want to start with what your why is, Barbara. Why do you do the work you do? So let's start with something about you people wouldn't know.
Well, one thing is I went to school from kindergarten through 8th grade in a one-room country school in Nebraska with about 30 children and one teacher.
Wow.
And, you know, I honestly think I got a better education than a lot of students are getting today.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah, that's fascinating. And it would certainly be formative in terms of knowing those kids and growing up with them and growing through that educational process with one person or process, one person at the helm. That's fascinating. So let's tell us a little bit about why you do the work you do. What's your...
Well, Jeanette, I have to give you credit for being able to answer that question.
Well, thank you. Yes, we did.
I don't know if you remember the conversation, but
I do.
You were asking me why, and I said, because I wanted to give other people hope. Mm-hmm. And I've always said I wanted on my tombstone, she gave others hope. Mm-hmm. And you said, that's not the why, that's the what. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have a clue what you were talking about. I mean, I was like, what? I mean, it is my why. But through all these conversations, it's like, because I spent the majority of my life feeling hopeless.
Yeah.
And no one would know it. Mm-hmm. And to this day, I struggle with depression. It's something that hangs around, comes and goes at different times. I've learned how to cope with it. But at age 11, I tried to commit suicide. And in my 40s, I was in a mental hospital, just ready to give up. And I fortunately never did give up. And I never want anybody else to. And when I hear people saying, and I just celebrated my 79th birthday.
Wow.
And I am better, feel better in every way today than I ever have in my whole life. And so I believe as long as you are breathing, you have an opportunity to still, the Bible says that God had a plan for you, and I really believe that. And I believe that sometimes it takes a long time, but there is a plan and it's never too late.
Right. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that, including the struggles that you've had with mental health issues and depression, and especially that early. That's that is not unusual, but it's unusual for people to remember it, to bring it forward, to be able to see that pattern, and to still be here at 79, dealing with all the stuff that you deal with, and bringing people hope in the process, because you really want people to have the life that you wish you had had along the way as well. So,
and the life that I have now. I mean, there are so many people around me who, my age, who just don't have much of a life because they're going to the doctor all the time, and they just don't feel hopeful. And I just think that's very sad, because I believe we were intended to, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. The Bible says, in this world you will have tribulations, but rejoice, I've overcome the world. And I'm a living example of that. I've certainly had plenty of tribulations, but so far I have been able to overcome all of them and continue to do so.
Yeah, beautiful. So let's talk about your journey. So 1978, took out an ad in a newspaper. And why did you do that? What was going on back then that you started and launched this fledgling little business?
Well, my first husband and I lived in India, and we adopted 3 orphan children under 5. And we moved to New York City, and he worked for a nonprofit and didn't make enough money to pay for living expenses in New York. So I needed to contribute to the family income, but I wanted my children to be first. One had special needs, so I really needed to be flexible. And so I decided the best way to do that was to find a problem in the world that I could solve that people would pay me for. And I sat on the playground and listened to what people were talking about. And I grew up on a farm, and I used to follow my daddy around, so I was pretty handy. So I thought, I could have like a handy girl service or something like that. But in New York, you had to be part of the union. So I was like, okay, well, that won't work. So then I just kept listening, and I kept hearing conversations about families struggling with clutter, with disorganization, or people not being stressed because they didn't file their income taxes because they didn't have the receipts, or not having company over because they were embarrassed about the clutter that was all over their dining room table and stuff. And I thought, they just didn't have my mother. Now, what everyone needs to know is I am not a naturally organized person. And the people who work around me know that I can make a mess faster than anybody. But I was blessed. First of all, my father was a farmer. So in our company, we teach systems, and we use the acronym saving you space, time, energy, and money, which I just love, because when you're a farmer, the cows don't give milk and the crops don't grow if you don't have a system. So I just grew up around, it's time to do this, and you have to do this because otherwise there won't be any results. And my mother was the personal assistant to the president of a bank for 46 years. And so I just grew up thinking that everybody did systems. But then when I became a mother of young children and I would go into other people's homes, or even when I was young and I was a babysitter, when I was a babysitter for families, they loved to have me because I'd organize their house. Because while the kids were asleep, I'd go in and I'd clean I got so much babysitting business because I could organize. But it's not, it was something that it was given to me as a gift, and it does not come naturally at all. But I do practice my own systems, and with my own systems, I don't know where my life would be.
Okay, so you took out this ad, and so I heard some brilliant things in there, by the way, that you became an entrepreneur pretty much out of necessity, as many people do, but that you really the impetus or the framing that you brought to it was, let me find a problem that I can solve that people will pay me for. That's essentially entrepreneurship at its heart.
That's right.
Have to be more complicated than that. And let me find a problem that needs solving that I can solve and want to solve. That people will pay me for. All three of those pieces need to be there. If you're thinking about starting a business, it's really no more complicated than that. And then the brilliant piece that you brought to it was, let me go out and listen for where the need is that I hear and resonate with, because you probably heard lots of different problems, but the one you resonated with was the one that you have ability and brought up with and was kind of on your radar in a way that made sense for you, because you heard other problems, but you didn't respond to them. You responded to the one that fit for you. So that's really a brilliant. If that's all you take away from this podcast, that's pretty much your blueprint for how to figure out what business you want to run and how to get it going. Okay, so you took out a little ad. What happened?
I got 2 crank calls from guys trying to pick me up.
Okay. Which is almost inevitably going to be the case if you're on social media these days. By the way. Yeah.
And the third call was from a 55-year-old widow. Mm-hmm. Her husband was an attorney and a solo practitioner. He worked out of his home, but also had an office, and he died suddenly, and she didn't have a clue what was going on and didn't have any children. So in many ways, I did what a daughter might have done. Mm-hmm. And he'd left piles of paper everywhere. And that was back in the days when everything was paper. And there were just piles of paper everywhere. And she was so overwhelmed. She didn't know that she was my first client. I charged $10 an hour. I lived in horror that someone would ask me what made me think I was worth $10 an hour. Mm-hmm. But I just went in and I looked at it at first and I thought, what in the world have I done?
Yeah.
I mean, I just looked at this mess and I just thought, oh, Barbara, you have really, I just thought, okay, I got to do what I know to do, which is what all entrepreneurs do, right? Know what I know to do. And so I started sorting. It's like, okay, I can sort these papers into categories and I can figure out, I can talk to the lawyer about this, the insurance agent about this. And that's how I did it. And to promote the business, I didn't even have money for business cards. Yeah. But I would go find organizations that had like garden clubs and church groups and parent-teacher associations. And I would just reach out to somebody and say, I have speech on 10 ways to get organized, 10 ways to get organized for Christmas, 10 ways to organize your kitchen, 10 ways to organize, just whatever. And I would give a speech. And then at the end, I'd say, and if you need help, here I am. And then that was in New York City. Mm-hmm. I was there almost a year. And then we got moved to Washington, D.C. And so I went to the Washingtonian magazine, was the best magazine in Washington. I called the editor and I said, I've just moved here from New York City and I have a service that I think would be of interest to your readers. And lo and behold, she was quite interested in that contact. And they did a little blurb they had called Best Buys. And it showed me with a file cabinet and said, for $10 an hour, Barbara Hemphill will come to your house and organize your files.
Wow.
And so that kind of started it. Now, here's the thing, things you think are going to be successful. Like I was in Good Morning America and the same thing happened. Publicity has an interesting side effect in that all of us as entrepreneurs think if we just got this publicity, everything would be wonderful. Mm-hmm. But in fact, everybody thinks that everybody's reaching out to you. And so then they don't reach out to you because they think you're too famous. It's really ironic. I've heard that story over and over.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that you're probably out of reach for their budget and also
absolutely
and projections. Yeah. Okay. Again, some great teaching content in here. I hope you guys are picking up. And that is that, first of all, she didn't even have money for business cards, but didn't let that stop her from starting a business. So you don't have to have a big budget. And you set your fees at $10 an hour. Now, what was an average, let's say, secretary making at that time?
Gosh, I'm terrible about numbers. I don't even know if I remember.
You lived in fear of someone finding out you were charging that much. So it was probably felt pretty high.
Oh, it did. Oh, yeah. I mean, it felt really high to me. It's like, oh my gosh. And I remember at one point, the first invoice I sent for $1,000, the price had raised a little bit. I was awake all night long. It's like, oh, yeah.
Okay, well, so here was what part is important about this. You set this goal, and even though it was outside your comfort zone, you stuck with it and you did it anyways. And the world didn't end. People didn't call you out as being a fraud. All of that imposter stuff lived within you, not out there in the real world. And you did it anyways. So you set the bar for what was possible, even though it was uncomfortable for you at the time, which I think is brilliant and awesome. And you continue to do that, to stretch outside your comfort zone, which I think is super important for every and any entrepreneur, even if you don't necessarily believe it's going to work. Because, you said, I was, awake all night. I wasn't sure this was going to happen. And the point about media, it doesn't necessarily, it's not a silver bullet. In fact, can be counterproductive, but that you got that coverage simply by picking up the phone.
Well, and the other thing is, it serves you well. I mean, if nothing happened, people think, oh, you're a millionaire because that happened. No, that's not true. But for the rest of my life, I've been able to say, I was on Good Morning America, I was on the Today Show, and the other thing that's really funny is the Washingtonian magazine, which is where I first did it. I've been in business for a while. I got a call from a woman. I had switched from residential organizing to business organizing. Yeah. And I got a call from someone wanting me to come about her house. And I said, no, I don't do homes anymore. I have somebody else. I'll refer you to somebody else. And she just insisted, I just need you, So I went ahead and did it. Well, I went there and it didn't feel right at all. She wasn't receptive and I was really kind of negative. I said, I don't think you're in a position to do this. I mean, I don't feel like you're ready to do this. Well, ultimately, it turned out it was a setup. Her husband was an editor of the magazine and had set that up. And so he wrote the article as though he had talked to me.
Oh.
And said, she made me feel like a child being talked to by my mother or something like that. I mean, it was horrible. I mean, just horrible. And I was devastated. Well, my clients were furious. And some of them actually wrote letters to the magazine complaining. But the interesting thing was, forever after, and people would say, the saying is, bad publicity is better than no publicity. And that is the truth. I'm a living example of that because that was terrible and bad publicity. Yeah. But they'll say, oh yeah, I remember you were in the Washingtonian, but they didn't remember what for.
Yeah, exactly. And that it got your clients motivated to send in letters and stuff is also a wonderful kind of reinforcement, but practical support as well that you could speak to or that you could use in your testimonials and so on. So I think that's brilliant. And you got that coverage by not going through all sorts of stuff in your brain about, well, I got to have this first or that first or have these ducks in a row. You just picked up the phone and said, hey, I think I can help your readers or I help your listeners or whatever, your viewers. And they said yes, because worst case scenario, they say no, but in some cases they will say yes. So that again is a very great entrepreneurial trait that you have. So the industry, the organizing industry, didn't really exist much at that time, right?
It didn't exist at all. I mean, there were a few people in California that were beginning to it, but it really didn't exist at all. And I went to the Small Business Administration in Washington, D.C. to ask them to help me launch my business. And they laughed me out of the room and said, this is not a viable business. Nobody is going to pay for organizing closets, cupboards, and kitchens. And I think the last quote I saw was it's like the residential organizing alone is like an $11.8 billion industry. And so I had the last laugh about that. And the irony is, and I think part of the reason that I still exist is that I believe the business side of organizing is now where the residential side was 20 years ago. And recently I've had some wonderful contracts. One of the things that I do now is a digital productivity party. So it's literally for a group of businesses. In this case, it was 45 employees, and we came in for one day and turned it into an event, helping them to organize their digital documents.
Yeah.
And they pay very well for that. The clients absolutely love it because they're getting paid to do something they really want to do, really need to do. And we turn it into a party by, having prizes and food and everything like that. So it's really amazing. So I think my company that I founded, Productive Environment Institute, we train people to do what we do. And I keep saying the opportunity that exists now is just phenomenal compared to what it was when I started, because after COVID, in fact, our tagline is accomplish your work and enjoy your life. And literally, I don't know, it's been 5 years or so ago, a man hired me to speak to his sales team. Mm-hmm. And when I mentioned that, he said, I just want them to do their damn work. I don't care if they enjoy their lives. Mm-hmm. And frankly, and I've never marketed to publicly held companies for exactly that reason, because they only care about the stock price. So I always went to private companies. But now, post-COVID, I don't think that's possible anymore. Because if you're talking about employee attraction and retention, you're going to have to care whether your employees are not only accomplishing their work, but enjoying their life. And in fact, one of the contracts I have now is with a company the company is providing my consulting services to the individual for their personal life.
Wow. That's very insightful. Yeah.
Well, so think about what that does for loyalty. And all the research shows that employees don't leave a company because of salary.
Right.
They leave because of management.
Yeah.
So if your manager cares enough about you that they're willing to bring in a professional to talk to you, and I start by asking the question, what is the one thing that has to happen in your life for you to feel happy with your progress?
With your
the answer,
is that the last word? With your progress? Yeah. Okay.
To be happy with your progress. So, and the answer to that can be, I need to take care of my mother-in-law, or I need a new car, or I don't have money for kids for going to college, or it's work related. I mean, when I'm talking to them, I don't care whether it's business related or personal related, because it's all together. Right. Your value of an employee is directly related to your happiness as an individual, and vice versa.
Right.
I mean, as a family member, your joy in that family is directly related to the joy in your work.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And we're whole human beings. We can't be compartmentalized. And that sales manager was obviously someone who was just short-sighted and didn't realize that, and didn't realize, and likely had high turnover rates, likely had high dissatisfaction rates, and wasn't being as productive as he could be because his people weren't. Because of that attitude. So obviously very visionary early on. So you wrote a book. When did you write Taming the Paper Tiger? What year?
1988 was the first one.
Almost 10 years after you started.
Yeah.
And it became kind of the seminal book of the industry. Tell me a little bit about A, why did you write the book? And B, what was its impact on you and on the industry and on your business?
Well, there is no question that without the book, I would not be here today. That book was the most effective thing that I did because it gives you credibility. And I'm happy to announce that my business partner and colleague has written a new book, which will be out this month, which is that book updated, and it's called SOAR, SOAR, Soar to Success, the art of organizing your information so you can finally get things done. And it's basically the updated version of Taming the Paper Tiger.
Perfect. That's awesome. Okay, well, we're going to talk about PEI and Andrea in a minute, but was it a really difficult thing for you to create? Because back then, the publishing industry, and of course we had no AI, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh my gosh, the story is, we don't have time but I'll try to be brief about it. First of all, I wrote a lot of it on a battery-operated typewriter in my car because I loved the water. And so I would go park my car where I could see the Potomac River, and I would get my typewriter and I would write. And I would just write what I wanted to tell my clients. So I envisioned my client and I said, this is what my client needs to know. And I addressed every single piece of paper that came into the house, everything, tax records, real estate records, medical records, junk mail, recipes, photographs, children's artwork, everything, every kind of, it was designed, I mean, and it had an index, so you didn't have to read it from cover to cover. You could look up in the index. And the reality is that book, 80% of it is still accurate today. I mean, it does say something like you should consider having an answering machine. Because back in those days, I can remember my clients, oh, my friends would be offended if they called me a machine answer.
Now you're lucky if you get a real human being. Okay. So let's fast forward a bit. So you ran your business for quite a while, and then along the way, and it's gone through some iterations, along the way you created PEI. When did that come about and why?
Well, it came about because I was called Paper Tiger Institute and the Paper Tiger Lady because of that book. So, but we were moving into the digital age. And so this was a case of feeling I needed to reinvent myself because I didn't want people to think that I didn't know anything except paper. And so that was when it was renamed to Productive Environment Institute, which was also something that my business partner and owner of Productive Environment Institute came up with. So it became the Productive Environment Institute, and we defined a productive environment as an intentional setting in which people could accomplish their work and enjoy their lives. And that's been, now the book originally was written on Clutter is Postponed Decisions, and that's the core of everything we've ever done. And I mentioned the book that Andrea's just written, and the core of it is that information, any cluttered information is postponed decisions, and there's literally only 3 decisions you can make about a piece of paper. And we call it now the art. We used to do it the other way around because we call it fat, so clear the fat. But then we said, we've always talked about the art of organizing. So there's only 3 things: action, reference, or toss. Okay. And if you think about it, it's true. If you get a voicemail message, if you have a Post-it note, any piece of information that comes in, it is either an action that you have to do or delegate or see that it gets done. It's a reference. It's something you don't know if you'll ever need, but you don't have the guts to throw it away. So you're going to put it in a reference, or it's tossed. Those are the only 3. There's nothing else. And the basis of the success of my business has been simplicity. And this is the epitome of simplicity.
Right. And so talk a little bit more about that postponed decisions, because I think when I first started, it's like, oh yeah. And then when you pause and think about that a little more, there's quite a bit of depth behind that. So what is that about? Why is that such a big issue? Well,
I learned it from clothes closets. So in the very beginning, I would stand with clothes closet and I'd pull something out and I would ask people about it. And they would agonize over the decisions so much. And I'm processing, what is this? And what I concluded was it was emotion. It's the fear of making a mistake, the fear of offending someone, the fear of wanting it back, the fear of forgetting, all of those things. And so then in 2014 is when I wrote Less Clutter, More Life. And the premise of that is that physical and digital clutter is a symptom of emotional and spiritual clutter. And that's the core of everything I do now. Even with a corporation, it's like, and corporations do have clutter. I mean, they have huge amounts of clutter. Yep. And it's not something, I've had a terrible time selling to companies for a long time because the people that were the decision makers were not the ones that understood what the clutter was costing them.
Right.
To them, it was no big deal.
Right.
But that's changing. That's really changing now.
Yeah.
And so
the cause and effect, and it's measured more. There's more metrics about it now.
That's right. That's exactly right. And so I'm always saying, for example, one of the questions I will ask an executive is, what has to happen in your company in the next 3 years for you to feel happy with your success? I'll never forget the first time I asked that question. I learned it from Dan Sullivan, the founder of Strategic Coach, probably 25 years ago. And I remember asking it the first time to an executive at Pacific Telesis in California. I was terrified to ask that question. It's like, who am I to ask this man that question? But Dan had said, ask that question, and if they don't answer, pack up your briefcase and go. Because it means they're not willing to have a relationship with you. And if they're not willing to have a relationship with you, then you might as well not be there. And I thought, that really makes sense. So I thought, I have nothing to lose. I have absolutely nothing to lose. So I went there and I asked that question. My palms were sweaty. My stomach was in knot. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how scared I was. And I asked that question, and he'd said, just shut up. So I asked it, and I sat there for what seemed an interminable amount of time. And then he said, well, that's a big question. And I said, yes, it is, isn't it? And I just sat there. And then he started talking. And Jeanette, I am not exaggerating. He talked for 40 minutes.
Wow.
Because executives at that level have very few people that they can trust. And I think the fact that I was willing to listen, I didn't get the contract, which is a good thing because I didn't know enough to have carried it out anyway. But it was wonderful practice and a wonderful lesson that I've never forgotten.
Beautiful. And I love that you just shared that you didn't get the contract, because sometimes we don't, but it can be a valuable learning. So say the question again, because I know people want to write it down this time.
What's the one thing that has to happen in your company or in your life for in the next, and you can pick a time frame, and I picked the time frame depending on who the conversation is with. In this case, it was with a corporate executive, so I chose 3 years.
Yep.
What has to happen in your company in the next 3 years, bless you, to feel happy with your success? Often with, like I was talking about working with employees of companies, I will say in the next 90 days.
Yeah.
Because we can make massive strides in 90 days, and that gives people hope, which is ultimately what I want to do.
Yes, exactly. Okay, brilliant. And I love they need to partner with you in order for you both to be successful. And so be willing to ask the tough questions. Come in as a solution partner, not a vendor. That's someone who's coming in at a level where they're supporting a peer, not as someone who's coming hat in hand and saying, can I sell you some services by the hour? So I love the positioning of that as well. Very smart, and elevated you faster than had you gone up through that kind of vendor service provider route. You came in at a higher level. So you were doing corporate, you were working with productive environment. Tell us a little bit about the journey of having a partner. So you and Andrea have gone through a lot over the years with productive environment. What are the pros? What are the cons of it? What would you tell other people who are considering starting a business with a partner?
Well, first of all, I would say that a business relationship is more challenging than a marriage as it relates to partnerships.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but I have been so blessed. And Andrea and I met because I was, at that time, had a certification program for people to be, they were called PTACs, Paper Tiger Authorized Consultants. And she took that training and became a consultant. And that's another whole story, which is very exciting and encouraging. But she took that. And then at one point, I became quite ill. And I just couldn't run my business. I didn't take care of myself, which is a typical entrepreneurial story as well. And I called her and I said, what is your long-term goal for a business? And she said, I want to manage an international virtual company. And I said, well, how about mine? And so she started stepping in to help me manage my company, and then over time took on more and more of a role. And the interesting thing is, when I first moved to Raleigh 30 years ago, I took a training program from Sam Sandler, who had Sandler Sales Training, and he had been dead for 10 years. And we were listening to his audio cassette tapes. And I said, that's my business model. I want to have a model that I can be dead, and what I've taught is still going to happen. And so that's always been in the back of my mind and part of what has kept me going. I mean, you mentioned in my introduction, leaving a legacy. That was the legacy I wanted. So ultimately, I've sold the company to Andrea. So Andrea now is the owner of Productive Environment Institute. I'm still very active in it. I have the blessing of being able to do what I want to or what I don't want to. And fortunately, we're very compatible in how we go about doing that. Yeah. But I could drop dead tomorrow and the company would be in good hands. And one of the things that I would recommend that you do in a partnership is to have an exit strategy. That's not something I did well, and we've struggled a lot with that through the years. And you don't want to think about it because it's just like we don't want to do end of life planning, right? We don't want to write a will, right? The reason, 10% of the population has a will because people don't want to think about it. Well, doing an exit strategy for a business is kind of like your will for your business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people don't want to do it, but it's critical, and it's begin with the end in mind. I mean, it helps you, if you know how you're going to exit, it helps you figure out how you're going to do things along the way and make decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the other things we agreed on was that we wouldn't do anything. This has changed over the years as our roles have changed, but when we first started working together, we made an agreement that we would never do anything that we didn't both agree on it, because it was a new business and there were so many ways you could do things. It was like there wasn't any point in arguing about what to do because there were enough things that we could do that we did agree on that would keep us moving forward, that there was really no point in it. So for many, many years, our agreement was that if we don't both agree with it, we will not move forward. Then as our roles changed and she became the leader, now I don't make those decisions at all. I will come with ideas, say, here's an idea, but it's ultimately her decision.
Cool. And so from the time that she became a consultant or certified through your program to the time where she bought the company, how long was that period?
15 years.
Yeah. So I want you to hear that's a long courtship. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be that long.
No, it doesn't have to. I mean, it didn't have to be. It could have happened sooner, but we were compatible and I enjoyed what I was doing. And one of our principles of the company is together we are better. And we lived that. I mean, we are very compatible. I was the connector. For example, she drugged me into virtual organizing. Oh my gosh, I didn't want to do that at all. She drugged me into it, and she was so right. And the new digital product that she's created, the SOAR board, is absolutely the most brilliant productivity tool on the market now, hands down. There's nothing like it anywhere else because it helps people organize paper and digital information. So we've reached the point where she has more value to the company than I do, because I'm not interested in it. It's like, I think about Beverly Sills, the opera singer I once heard, had a diamond necklace that said IDTA, which stood for I did that already. And that's how I feel about productivity, like the tools and the things like that. It's like at this point in my life, I'm not interested in learning more. Now I'm interested in what I started in the beginning, which was giving people hope. And when I'm talking to them, if they're disorganized, it's like, I know where to send you. And frankly, a large percentage of the population is. So that means I can talk to people about giving them hope and doing what I do and send them to them. So it's a perfect combination.
I love it. Now, we could talk for hours, but there's so many things I want to cover and make sure. So in terms of that whole relationship with Andrea, I know from, our work together, part of your journey with her, and a lot of the work that you did in developing her as a leader and having the patience as she grew within her role to be able to get to a point of taking over the company and defining the company together as you went along. It wasn't an easy journey for you, but you were committed to her and to your vision so that you finally created that result. But it was not an easy journey.
And there's one thing there that's critical. The thing that we shared that has kept us working together so well is we shared the same values.
Yeah. Yeah, very important. And in fact, you start your calls with a similar value grounding and have a very similar perspective on the world. So that helps a lot. Although you bring very different strengths to the equation, that's also important in a partnership.
Absolutely.
Is to make sure that you have the balance of.
Well, it's together we're better. I mean, that really is. It's together we're better, because there are things that.
Visionary, and she's the ultimate operational purpose person, which is a really good combination.
Yeah.
Right? Visionaries need to be grounded by people who get the shit done, and the people who get the shit done need to have that vision and that bigger purpose to pull them forward and motivate them. So it was, but they don't speak each other's language, and they often don't understand each other. So it can be rocky and difficult, like you said.
Sure.
It's often more work than a marriage without any of the physical benefits. So, but there are monetary if you do it well. Okay, let's talk about your progression to doing some of the work that you call vision acceleration. So, talk just a little bit about how you've been doing that and what that means to you, and how that's playing out now.
Well, if you go back to the question of what has to happen in the next 90 days for you to be happy with your progress.
Yeah.
One of the kinds of services that I've been doing that I love is what I call laser coaching, vision accelerator laser coaching. Mm-hmm. And so we have a 90-minute phone call in which we use our 5-step proprietary process to figure out what that one thing is. And it could be anything. I just had a client where it was her one. Oh, and another way I ask the question, I love this question. I invite everybody that's listening to this to answer this question because it's critical. If I left this earth tonight, what regret would I have?
Yeah.
The answer to that question is a form of clutter, as I've defined it, because I define clutter as anything that prevents you from accomplishing your work and enjoying your life. Mm-hmm. So if you're not sleeping at night because you know you haven't done your will, or in this case, my client said, I've composed 140 songs, which my children and grandchildren want me to get into a book, and I haven't done it. And if I died, I'd feel terrible about that. In 90 days, she had it done.
Awesome. I love that. And it is a really, really valuable question. I have 2 rules in life. Don't do anything you're going to regret, and don't regret anything you've done. Learn from it and apply it, because I can't remember a lot of rules, so I can only afford 2 in my life. But I think that regret is a really good clarifier, and asking what might you regret or what do you regret is really important, because we don't want to die with regrets. Okay, so I think that's brilliant. So you do this 90-minute session, you get them clear. It's not necessarily ongoing. But
the ticket is that then they have unlimited text with me. And the deal is they can text anytime, day or night, because if I don't want to be disturbed, I turn it off. Mm-hmm. And at the end, and each text, they have homework. It's like when they send the text, there's something they're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And they can't send the next text until they've either done it or given me a really good reason why they haven't, why they've decided not to, or something like that. That, for me, is a way, as an entrepreneur, it's like, that's how I can be an entrepreneur at 79 years old and still have the life I want, because I can text anytime from anywhere, whatever. Yeah. And I'm I don't like long things. Yeah. I mean, I joke in our church when we have a meeting and there's a prayer at the end and they need a short one, he always asks me because I pray short prayers.
I love that. Okay, so you've gone to Vision Accelerator as your way of structuring the kind of work that you want to be to fit your lifestyle, which I think is also very important as part of our reinvention as we go along.
And they can, if they want to, they have the option of then expanding it. Or most often what happens is, because I don't like to do long-term things, I'm a caregiver for family members and stuff, I refer them to somebody else, because after 90 days, I know what kind of people, and I have contacts with so many wonderful people. So if they need more work, then I know where to send them in the right direction.
Yeah. Brilliant. Another bigger picture collaborative model of, you don't have to be the solution for everything. And as you go along, you collect great, brilliant people. So utilize that network, utilize those resources to provide a great solution, but you don't have to provide it all yourself. So let's talk a little bit about the role of faith in your journey, and also the Christian chamber that you're creating and why that's come about. And then I'd love you to just give some advice about reinvention and how and why you're still going at 79, and how people can think about this whole journey, where at whatever stage they're at. So let's start with, tell me how faith plays into your business and your life and the role it's played for you.
I wouldn't still be here without my faith. I mean, I really believe. I mentioned that I tried to commit suicide at age 11. And the reason I did was that my grandfather was a very religious man and always said that God talked to him. God told me this, God told me that. And I never heard God talk to me. And we'd have revival meetings and I would go and cry my eyes out and say, God, please talk to me. My grandfather said that if you didn't hear from God, it was because you had skeletons in your closet. I didn't realize until way after I'd started my business, wasn't it ironic that I started a business clearing closets? And it was because at age 11, it was I couldn't hear from God. And I thought, I have done something to offend him or whatever, and there's no point in living. And I put a dry cleaner bag over my head, and my brother found me. And so faith has been there from the very beginning. Then a whole variety of things through the years, rocky kinds of things. But I've always believed that God created me for a purpose. And that's why I think I believe, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that there's not one person on this earth that was not created for a specific purpose. And if they are doing that purpose, they will be able to accomplish their work and enjoy their life, which is what the tagline for Productive Environment Institute is. So faith has been critical. In the beginning, when I went to clients' houses, I never said the name of Jesus because I was so afraid of offending someone. My grandfather had offended so many people. I didn't want to be like my grandfather. But I would sit in my car and pray that other people would feel the love of Jesus, whether I ever mentioned his name. Now, as decades later, I've become so passionate. So I said, clutter is postponed decisions. And what I know is the most important decision is, who is your creator? What do you believe? And until you feel a connection, in my case, I believe it's Jesus, and I will go to my grave believing that. I'm not trying to make everybody else believe that. I'm just saying you need to believe in something, someone that you would be willing to die. And when you do that, then you can just keep moving forward. So it has just kept me together. And that has prompted me to launch. There is in the U.S., the U.S. Christian Chamber of Commerce. It's out of Florida. I've been a member for a couple of years. The founder, Crystal Parker, is just a dynamic woman. I heard her speak a couple of years ago, really touched my heart. And I said, okay, they were launching chapters. And I said, okay, I think I want to do a chapter. I did, but I didn't want to start it. Well, another man started it. And so I said, okay, you do it. I'll get people there. So I got people there. Well, then he left. And so here was all this energy for this. And people kept coming to me and saying, well, what's happening? What's happening? In all the things I've done in my life, I've never had people actually coming to me saying, when are we meeting again? Usually it's dragging them there. So I said, okay, I guess I'm supposed to do this. So I started. So January 29th of this month, we're having our launch meeting, and it's the Triangle Christian Chamber of Commerce. And the purpose of it is to get Christian business owners together, along with other workplace ministry people, even with college students in business who are Christians, to get them to hang around with other people. And part of what made me start it was I heard the story of the Arizona Christian Chamber. They found, I believe it was 50 children without beds. And in one weekend, the Christian Business Chamber solved the problem. Because entrepreneurs can solve problems. I mean, and we can help each other. So if I have a legal problem, I want to go to somebody that has the same faith that I do, that I can trust they're going to give me good advice. And so the way it works in most chambers, you pay your money and you belong. But in our chamber, it's like, this is our statement of faith. This is what we believe. And this is what we're promoting. If you don't believe that, then you don't want to be part of us, and that's okay. And then we have like a provisionary time. So you can come and join for a period of time for us to check you out and you to check us out to see if it's really a good fit. And so that we can help each other. But more importantly, the Bible says it's not government that's supposed to take care of the poor and the widows and the orphans. It's the church. And the church has done a miserable job of it because they've been too busy fighting with each other about different kinds of things. But I think Christian business owners can do it. We can work together. We can help each other so that we're all more profitable. And then we can help our community. So of all the things I've done in my life, this to me feels like it is the biggest impact I can make and will leave the legacy that I've dreamed up.
Beautiful. Well, you certainly have a big legacy in so many different ways and through all of the iterations that you've kind of gone through in your reinvention and reinvention and reinvention. What is it that keeps you deciding to work so much so at 79? Like you're not slowing down. Yeah, well, maybe a little bit, but you're still speaking. You're still, you just published a book not too long ago. What's keeping you so excited and passionate?
Well, it's just because of my passion for people to accomplish their work and enjoy their lives. It makes me very sad when I hear somebody say, I have to go to work.
Yeah.
I mean, it does. It just like it, because I believe we should, there is work that's meant for you to do. And the work may be something you get paid for, or it may be work that you do in order to do something different. But it's just having a heart for people to want them. I believe they were created to enjoy their life. That does not mean that their life is going to be smooth. I mean, there's going to be troubles, but when you have a purpose, then it's easier to go through those troubles. And also when you surround that together, we're better. Like what I love about Productive Environment Institute, we are a family. I mean, one of our members just had a heart attack and just had a stroke, and we're there supporting and praying and lifting each other up. And we've created the SOAR program now because we found that to help people get organized, there are really 3 components that are critical. The first one is a system. You cannot clear clutter randomly. It is not possible. That's just shuffling. And we have a proven system. It has been used for decades. I went into a client last week that hired me 27 years ago in her company. She was an employee in the company. I went into the company to do a digital productivity, and there were the files that we had set up 27 years ago that are still working. So our system absolutely works. So you have to have a system. Secondly, you have to have accountability, because this is difficult. If it were easy, I wouldn't be in business. Yep. And if it were easy, everybody would have it done. And most people don't have it done. Right. And so we're all more willing to be accountable to other people than we are ourselves. Yep. And so when we're working together, that's why the laser coaching works, because they're accountable to me to tell me in a text, I did this, and it makes them feel so happy, and I pat them on the back, and it's like, it's fun. And the third thing is community, because one of the issues around clutter and disorganization is shame. One of the intriguing things is if you do a search on clutter is postponed decisions, that I have said thousands of times, you will see that a large percentage of the time I am misquoted because they add an adverb and they will say clutter is simply postponed decisions, or merely postponed decisions, or only postponed decisions. Well, if you're having trouble making decisions and somebody comes up to you and says, well, it's just postponed decisions, how does that make you feel?
Right. Yeah.
And so people feel like I really should be able to do this, and they're embarrassed. They don't want. One of my very first clients was someone who became an ambassador to Madagascar, and she had me come and work from 6 p.m. to midnight because she did not want her colleagues to know that she was so disorganized she had to hire a professional.
Right.
And when somebody came to her office when I was there, she would introduce me as a friend.
Yeah. Yeah. And shame leads to isolation. We have challenges and struggles, and we don't want people to know. So we isolate ourselves or feel lonely in that, when really in reality, we're not alone in that at all. It is a huge
Exactly.
part of the human condition. Like you said.
So our SOAR program, the SOAR program that we do gives those three things. So people are working together.
Yeah.
There's a system, but everybody's working on their own thing. So part of the beginning is we decide what is the one thing you want to work on, and then we work on it and apply. It's so exciting. Andrea has done a brilliant job of putting it all together. We have fabulous support. You get personal technical support with people, and it's just really wonderful. I am so proud of PEI and what they're doing.
Well, speaking of the SOAR system, show us your book that you created in 1983, the To-Do book, and that was your first product. And now SOAR is a grown-up digital age version of that with much of the same kind of organization. So
this is the book.
Yep.
And you can see that's the word organizing consultant. It's the word organizing consultant all mixed up.
Oh, okay.
The logo.
That's funny. I like that.
So at the bottom, it says organizing consultant. It says get organized, get organized. So this is the letters for get organized. And at the bottom, it says get organized.
That's what that is. Okay. I couldn't quite see it. I love it. Okay. And so some little tabs for different areas. And
and they're just tabs. It's a loose leaf notebook with all these tabs. It says errands and projects and discuss and gifts and books. And I created it for myself. This was when we were in Washington, D.C., and I would be using it, and people say, "Oh, I want one of those." And so I thought it was a product. So in 1983, I created it as a product. And Andrea was then working on the SOAR board, and it wasn't until she'd been in it for quite a while, it's like, oh my word, this is a digital version of the SOAR board.
Right.
I mean, of the To-Do book.
And just another kind of quick little entrepreneurial lesson in there. So Barbara had a need. She solved that need by creating a product that helped her, went out into the world with it. People saw it and they gave her the feedback. So she market tested it, not inadvertently, but nonetheless, and decided based on that feedback that it was a product that could be in demand, turned it into a product and sold it. Do you know how many of those you've sold over the years?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Lots and lots. Yeah, not a numbers person. So,
and I still get calls from people now. I mean, somebody calls in, I've had this, for so many years. Of course, we don't have them anymore, and I've often thought, oh, maybe it's time to bring it out again. So,
because there are people who do like the paper version. I've got a friend who's 79, and she has a digital or a paper calendar, and she cannot work with a digital one, even though she's really tech savvy. She does all sorts of tech stuff. But so what advice would you give people about reinventing?
It begins with assessing.
Okay.
Assessing your life. What are your skills? What are your strengths? What don't you like? What do you like? What experiences have you had that were valuable or that you enjoyed? And then figuring out how you can put that all together. The thing that's so amazing about entrepreneurship is there is no limit to the way it can be put together. It's art. It really is art to put it together. And God did not create, I joked when people come in to become certified productive environment specialists, I use this analogy. I say, this is your experience in your life. It's the education you've had and where you've come from and whatever. And this is what you're learning from us. This is between Andrea and me, we have 70 years of experience now. So there's nobody anywhere that knows more about organizing, I don't think, than we do. When you become a certified productive environment specialist, you're these two things put together. And there is no other person in the world exactly like that. And when people hire a consultant, they're not hiring the service you provide. They are hiring you. And so part of my role in PEI has been helping the trainees figure that out. What is their niche market and how do they, because there is no limit to the way you can be a productivity consultant.
Right.
So literally anyone, a lot of the people who join our program are people who've been certified as coaches, but then they're not really sure what they're coaching about. And then it's like, oh, I can do that. Or they go to their industry. So they're in real estate. So then they can be productivity coaches for real estate or whatever. So there's just it's limitless. And so you want to figure out, what do you want your life to be like? Do you like to work with people, not with people, all those sorts of things? And that's what I'm very good at doing. And I'll do a discovery. I will do a 30-minute complimentary discussion for anybody on that to just get them on the right track, because I think it's so important.
Super generous, Barbara. So how would people take you up on that if they wanted to take you up on that 30-minute offer? Because we do have another gift that we'll give them in a moment, but
just write an email to barbara@barbarahempill.com.
Okay, there you go. Write an email to barbara@barbarahempill.com, Hempill.
Hempill. Hempill. Yeah.
Okay.
And in the subject line, just put discovery session.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. That's super generous. And as you can tell, she's got a tremendous amount of expertise. So that's a very generous offer of her time and her expertise and her heart. So thank you for that. The two quick things. One thing is, I know you have hired and you've referred to and referenced a lot of different coaches and programs and mentors and various types of coaching along the way. Talk a little bit about why and the role that that's played, because I know you're a big advocate of it and you do it a lot. So why? Why is that so important to you?
When I first named my company, it was called Barbara Hemphill Associates, even though it was only me, because I knew that there was no way that I was going to be successful without other people. So I have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in 40 years on coaching, and I have learned from every single one. I have absolutely no regrets. I can tell you story after story of things that I learned. One thing is, I never hire a coach who doesn't have a coach, because I always want coaches to be learning. And I know people. I've had at any given time, I've had as many as 3 coaches at the same time. I have colleagues, I've one who has 7. I mean, he has a physical training coach and a spiritual coach and all those different things. So there's all kinds of coaching. So part of it is figuring out what is the coaching that you most need. And it's very viable to have more than one for different areas.
Yeah, absolutely. And to invest in yourself, because you are ultimately the product, like you said. We sell our expertise, we sell our knowledge, we sell our heart, the way we do things, the way we see things, and we need to grow outside of what we know. We don't know what we don't know, and that's the case for everyone. It's not a weakness to not know; it's a weakness to not get support with what you don't know.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I love that. And so what's in the future for you? So the chamber, and are you looking to write any more books? What are you planning now at 7?
I don't have any more books in mind at the moment. I mean, right now, that's the kind of thing that sometimes comes, but I don't really have a desire to do it now.
You have how many books right now?
Oh my gosh. Well, if you look up there's a whole shelf of them in various versions at different times. Being is really where I am right at the moment. It's like I'm not goal setting, big long goals. There are 2 things that this chamber I'm really interested in, because it's also business leaders, and those are the business leaders who potentially might use my services. But I'm not doing it for that purpose. If it happens, it's fine. So I'm very much like, I don't have to work. I'm very blessed. I could quit tomorrow and be fine. So it's like what comes to me. I'm not marketing anything. I'm not actively marketing anything. The other thing I'm doing, which is new, is I'm singing. I have a wonderful singing teacher from Korea who studied at the Manhattan School of Music, which ironically I lived across the street from when I was in New York. And she is here, and I have set a goal for my 80th birthday that I'm going to do a singing concert. The highlight of my life, when my 40th anniversary for my company, I did a piano and organ concert with a friend of mine, and we raised several $1,000s for Zoe Ministries, which were orphans in India. Well, I have a project they were in Africa. I have a project in India now called Shepherd's House Ministry that I support, and it's really exciting. And so for my 80th birthday, I'm going to sing, I can play the piano and do a concert and have a reception in my church to raise money for Shepherd's House. So this year is going to be a lot of practicing and preparing for that. So those are my two. The chamber will be that, and my singing recital. So that's kind of this year for me.
I love that. And I love that you have such a purpose-filled vision to pull you forward, and that you still work with clients to support them in creating their dream, driven by your why, that you want people to have hope because you often didn't have hope, and you don't want them to go through those dark nights of the soul that you went through. You want them to have the hope so that they can then live into their best life. And part of that, the layer above that, is clear those clutters and those postponed decisions so that they can be more free and have that amazing life that they're looking for. I really appreciate not only your wisdom, but also your example, Barbara. And so you do have a gift for people that they can get. Tell them a little bit about that.
This is it's either 14 or 17 minutes. I'm terrible about numbers and I don't remember which. It's a training that talks about the fact about those decisions, about the 3 decisions that you can make. And then it actually, and it gets you into our system. We have something called the Productive Environment Network, which is full of tons of resources, videos, and all kinds of training that you can have for free. And then it also introduces you to our SOAR program, which is the program that addresses managing your paper information, your digital information, and your to-do list. And people come in and they customize it for what they're wanting to do, and you can join it. You join for a year, that'll be your best cost, or you can do it by month if you're not sure that you want to make that investment. But we have people who renew year after year because that community aspect is really helpful.
Really important. Beautiful. So I'm going to give you the last word here. By the way, that gift will be, you can get it I wrote down the URL, but I don't have it handy.
lesscluttermorelife.com/J Anderson.
Yes. So you can go get it there. And as you know, we have the vault. So the vault is basically a book that has all of our guests' gifts. So if you opt into the vault, you can go and see all of the previous episodes and all of the previous gifts that our guests have given. You can get Barbara's gift as well as a host of other tools, resources, and trainings and ebooks and so forth. So go into the vault, load up your socks with all the gifts that we're going to be supportive of you. Make sure that you actually use them. Don't just stick them in a file. Actually use them. Otherwise, it just becomes another postponed decision, and apply them, starting with Barbara's brilliant training that she's offering you. And do take her up on that call for that 30-minute conversation. You'll find it so valuable. So, Barbara, I want to give you the last word here. What's one last piece of advice you'd want to give to maturepreneurs, those who are either, and perhaps might be different advice for the two markets, those who are thinking of getting going, who may be thinking, but what I know is so simple, and yet it is a blessing to someone and can become a business, and those who are keeping going, who have been in business for a long time, like you and I, and might need to just kind of be renewed in their commitment. So what piece of advice do you have for those two?
Well, I think one of the resources that we underestimate is rest, quietness. We are such a society of doing. And the one thing that has made you asked me what kept me going, and I realized I probably didn't say it quite right, because really what kept me going was many years ago, somebody gave me, I couldn't sit still for 10 minutes. I have ADHD off the charts, and meditating and yoga was too slow. I just couldn't do that stuff. And somebody gave me a book called Jesus Calling. And it was there's 1 page a day. And I said, okay, I'm going to start every single morning by just reading that. And then it kept moving forward. And now for many years, I wake up every morning and go into now what I call my Doris chair, which was named after my mother. And I sit there and I pray and I read the scripture. I do nothing. I just start the day quietly. And I think that's where you figure out how you can reinvent yourself or what God intended you to do. And it's also rests your brain. I do a lot of brain training, which is very valuable as well, to reconnect some of those brain pathways that have gotten off on the wrong way. So resting your physical body, your mind, and your brain is critical.
Beautiful, and applies to both of those groups. Thank you for your example, for your wisdom, for sharing. So honestly, I love how practical you are and heartfelt and excited. I love the passion that you bring to everything you do. It's energizing. And
well, Jeanette, I have to say, I have done hundreds of podcasts, and you are absolutely my favorite interviewer. You are the best interviewer. So you can have me back anytime.
Barbara, I appreciate that. I appreciate it tremendously. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard this wisdom. Don't just hear it, do something about it. Take action on this. There's so many great nuggets of wisdom in here. If you go and apply one, you're going to be further ahead, better off than you were before you started listening to this. So please be the difference that only you can be, my friends. Bye for now. Thank you for listening. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. And I encourage you to apply one aha from this interview right away so you can turn your wisdom into wealth and your contribution into positive change. Bye for now.